about you, but looking back, 2025 was a really special year for me and one that I know I'm gonna look back on and remember for the rest of my life. But before I get too much into that, I want to say congratulations to you watching this because you've officially made it to the end of 2025. We're in the final last few days right now, and 2026 is literally going to be here this week. I personally really love the start of a new year. I feel like I just really enjoy all the reflecting, the planning, the relaxing, the good vibes, the good energy in the air. I just really enjoy the feeling and fresh energy that this time of year brings. And it also means that it's time that I get to film my favorite video of the year, which is this video that you're watching right now. It's actually really crazy to me because this is the 7th year in a row that I filmed this video. I started doing it, I actually went back and watched so I could see. The first time I did this video was when I was 23 years old, and right now sitting here 7 years later, I'm 29 years old. So I've basically been documenting my entire money journey throughout my entire 20s with you all on the channel, which is really fun to be able to go back and see. So in this video, what I typically do is look back and reflect on how the past year went with my money for me, and then I look forward on how I want things to change or what I want to focus on for the new year. So this time that's 2026. So to start off, I was trying to come up with the best word to describe this year for me and to kind of sum it up, and I started reflecting back and looking back on my year as a whole. And the best word that I could come up with was acceptance. I'm not really sure if that's the perfect word to actually encapsulate what I'm saying, but I'll try and explain what I mean by that. Basically, I feel like throughout this year, looking back on things, I realized that I kind of have this constant anxious voice in my head, we can call it, where I'm constantly feeling like I need to be planning something or pushing myself at every minute of the day at all times in order for the next phases of life or the next steps to come to me. It's kind of like basically if I'm not constantly stressed out, then good things won't come. And it's actually my stress, and the more stressed I get, the more good things will happen. It's like a causation between the two things, basically. And when I actually look back on my year, because at the time, throughout the year, I wasn't really sure if it was going well, whatever that means. But when I look back on my year, it went extremely well, and it was actually really nicely balanced. I had a good mix of downtime and being able to relax, and also big work opportunities and things like that. I had a good mix of traveling and doing fun things with my family, but also being able to focus on work and hitting those different goals. Basically, I had kind of a good mix of everything, and I now know in hindsight that it's not my stress that made those things happen. So this year, I feel like I really learned that as long as I'm focused on my goals, and I also just have good, consistent habits across the board all the time, and I bring positivity to the picture, then good things will happen. And that's not to say that there's not ups and downs. There's always going to be ups and downs, but over time, good things will continue to come up. And again, when I look back on my year while I was going through it, I didn't necessarily feel like things were going well, but when I look back on it, it was very balanced, it was very well-rounded, and a lot of big goals and accomplishments and just cool things happen this year, which we're going to get into. But first, really quick for anyone who's new, hi, I'm Steph. I used to work a corporate 9-to-5 job in HR, and then 4.5 years ago, which is crazy, my now fiance and I actually quit our jobs in order to work for ourselves full-time and run our own business. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's talking about personal finance and all things money online. So this year, I would say that my main money focuses, the two main focus areas for me was our business, of course, setting ourselves up for future success. So that would be the making money side of things, but also my investing goals. I was definitely very focused on investing this year, and I'll give you all the details on that in just a few minutes here as well. Where I definitely let things slide though was my expenses and on the spending side of things. I definitely spent a lot of money this year. I spent a lot more money than last year, so I definitely want to touch on some of my reflections and thoughts on that too. So let's jump into that, get into all the details, and also look forward to what I want things to look like in 2026. So if we take it back to the very beginning of this year, we decided to keep our salaries the exact same as last year. So that's $70,000 a year each, or a take-home pay of $4,459 a month each. Now, to kind of explain how this works too, we have a business and we have business bank accounts. So all of our business revenue goes there, and then we're employees of our business, so we get paid out a salary just like any other employee would. Now, on top of that base salary that we got throughout the year, we also had paid ourselves out a $15,000 bonus in January of this past year. Now, from there, my plan for the year was actually pretty simple. I wanted to invest 100% of my bonus, and then on top of that, invest $2,000 a month every month throughout the year. And then I would spend from the other $2,459 a month that I still had from my monthly income. Now, the first part of that plan I actually stuck to. First, I started off with investing 100% of my bonus all right away in January. I just did a lump sum contribution, and with that, I was able to also max out 2 investment accounts, which was really exciting to start the year off with. After that, I did also invest $2,000 a month every month of the year other than January. Now, in January, I already invested that $15,000 bonus, so I decided that it made sense to add a bit more of a buffer to my checking account and just leave an additional $2,000 in there at the beginning of the year, which was a good decision because I clearly needed it. Now, the reason I say I clearly needed it is because, like I said, my goal was to spend an average of $2,459 a month. That's what I had left over from my budget. But instead, I ended up spending an average of $3,048 a month. Clearly, there's a difference there and it's higher, so I definitely needed that buffer room. But the good news is that because I track all of my spending, literally every single transaction that I make, I track that. And because of that, I can see exactly what happened. So I actually made a little comparison between my 2024 spending and my 2025 spending to see the exact differences. And it was pretty interesting. So you can see that my rent, my internet, and my utilities, so my fixed expenses, they all went up a little bit this year. Nothing too crazy or would have had too big of an impact on my budget. I also spent about $55 more per month as an average on groceries. So definitely a little bit of increase there that would have changed some things. But the three biggest categories that I spent more money in this year that actually had a bigger impact was the home category, gifts, and also car rentals as well. Now, those were the three categories that I spent significantly more money on this year than last year. Pretty much combined, that makes up the difference in my spending. And the good news is that those are all categories that I can really control for next year moving forward. Now, gifts is a category that I'm more than happy to spend in, so it's not like this amount bothers me too much that I spent in the gifts category, but I just definitely know that I can bring it down very easily next year because a huge chunk of my gift spending this year was on Dennis's 30th birthday. Not having a 30th birthday again next year, so that'll change. I also did spend I went kind of big this year on Valentine's Day too. So if you combine that, that was a huge chunk of my gift giving budget. And we already decided that next year our gift giving is going to be a little bit more low key. So just naturally, without changing too much, that will already come down. Now, the home category is another interesting one. I hadn't really spent a significant amount of money in the home category for a number of years now. And that's kind of on purpose too. We're not in a place that we're going to be in for the rest of our lives. So we're not making major home purchases. But this year there was a lot of refreshes that we intentionally decided to do. We got new towels, new bedding, we got a cutting board and glass bowls, a new fruit bowl, we got a bath mat, a shower curtain, like tons of those different types of home upgrades. And we have no plans to do the same thing next year. We're all set with everything. It's going to be long lasting stuff. So again, just naturally that category will come down next year. The next one is the car rental category. Now that one's interesting because it's not a category that I expect to come down actually. At this phase in our lives, Dennis and I want to be able to be flexible, to go see our families, do certain things. And because we don't own a car and we live in the city, a car rental is a good way to do that. I will say though, when we add up how much we both spent combined on car rental for the year, it's still significantly less than if we were to buy a car. And that's kind of why we wanted to start tracking it. If it ever at a point becomes so much that it would make more financial sense to buy a car, then maybe we'd consider that, right? But for now, it gives us a lot more flexibility not to own one. And also we save tons of money. It's still such a small amount. The average is like combined $200 something a month. That's probably less than just parking would be if we owned a car. So anyway, that category will kind of probably stay. So I'll have to consider that in my budget categories for next year, right? And seeing if everything else, maybe I'll actually even give it a monthly amount or something like that just in case. But that's something for me to consider. But those are the three categories. Now, overall, if we look at my spending for this year, I still spent less money than I did back in 2023. But regardless of that, I want to get back towards trending downwards on my spending again this year and really making that a priority. And I know that's something that I can do as long as I am focusing on it and making it one of my main goals for the year. Okay, so before I talk about some of my investing wins for the year, I wanted to remind you that we're hosting a live kickoff call for everyone who joins our course, Simple Investing for Canadians, before January 19th. Now, simple investing is for anyone who maybe either hasn't started investing yet, or if you have started investing, you're just not sure if you're doing the right things for you specifically. On the live kickoff call, we're going to do a full intro to the course, also a Q&A session where you can ask us any questions that you have, and a goal setting session so that we know where you want to be when you're done with the course. Now, again, you have until January 19th to sign up if you want to be included in the kickoff call. So make sure that you sign up before January 19th. The link's going to be in the description box below. We'll have it on screen for you too. But again, make sure you sign up before January 19th. Now, I also want to touch on some of the big money milestones that I hit this year before I start talking about my plans for next year. Now, the first one was investing the most money that I ever have in a single year, at least of my own money specifically. So this year I invested $37,000. That was the $15,000 bonus that we paid out in January, plus $2,000 a month for 11 months. So yeah, that ends up being the most money that I've invested in a single calendar year, which I'm really, really happy about. That one makes me really excited. And I also want to say that it's not really about the amount of money, right? It's more about the fact that I'm at that stage in my life and in my financial journey that I'm able to invest more every year. I'm able to do better every year, especially as someone who's self-employed. That just makes me feel very proud, very accomplished. I'm proud of myself, Dennis, of course, too. And it's also something that's just not a given, right? It doesn't just happen automatically. You have to work for that and be grateful for it, right? So I'm very happy to celebrate it. I also hit some pretty big net worth milestones in 2025 too. So I hit $175,000 in March of last year. Then I hit $200,000 in the summer. And then at the end of the year, right now still, I'm sitting at about a $230,000 net worth. So that's all throughout the course of 2025. Now, I actually track my net worth throughout the year using the bank accounts tab of our budget tracker. I'll actually put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. But basically, I track what's in every single one of my different bank accounts and investment accounts throughout the year. So that way I can see the progress on a monthly basis and have that history to look back on. And then it actually shows up in the chart form too. So I can see that progress of my net worth growing and the different investment account fluctuations too. Now, on top of that, I also maxed out all 3 of my tax advantaged investment accounts this year, which is my newest accomplishment, I guess that I could call it. So basically what that means is that I've contributed as much money as I possibly can to all of the different tax advantaged investment account options that are available to me. And this one I'm really excited about. This is definitely a huge milestone in anyone's personal finance journey to be at that point where they've maxed out all of those tax advantaged accounts. And I feel like I definitely feel the most proud and excited about this one. Now, I will say that I gain more contribution room in all 3 of these accounts. So that's the TFSA, FHSA, and RRSP on January 1st. So I'm going to have to re-hit this goal and remax them out next year. So that's going to be on the list to do in 2026. Okay, so that's how 2025 went. Now let's actually look forward and talk about 2026 and also how I'm feeling about the fresh start and all the plans for the new year. So first things first, we're actually going to keep our salary the exact same again this year. So that's the second full year in a row for the complete year that we're going to be paying ourselves out that $4,459 a month figure. So that's the amount that we're getting paid, specifically because we just found that it's worked really well for us over the past few years and we'd like to keep that moving forward. That way, all the other money that we have can be kept in the business. We can use it to either pay ourselves out additional bonuses like we have in the past. We could invest from there. We could just have it sitting in there too. But that's just where it's worked well for us. And we're going to continue to do that this year moving forward. Now, we actually still haven't decided what our end of year bonus is going to be for this year, at least not at the time of me filming this video. So that's still to be determined. I'd love for us to pay ourselves out enough to, again, next year, remax out our TFSAs and FHSAs right away, or at least make a really big dent in them right away. So we'll see what ends up making the most sense for us, but hopefully that's what we'll end up landing on. If as of right now, it's that we're thinking about. So we shall see, to be determined and coming up. Either way, when it comes to my standard monthly plan, so what I'm doing aside from the bonus every single month, it's actually the exact same as last year too. So I want to invest $2,000 a month and then spend from the other $2,459 a month. Now, I'm actually going to touch on the spending side of things in just a second, but first let's talk about the investing side of things and break down my investment strategy for 2026. Okay, so there's a few different parts to my investment strategy. There's how much money I'll be investing, what investment accounts I'll be investing in, and then also what actual investments I'll be purchasing. Now, for anyone who's new, I've been a DIY investor for 2 full years now. Before then, I was using a robo-advisor to invest, but in January 2024, I switched over to doing all my own purchasing and managing of my own investments using the Wealthsimple platform. And if we actually pull up my Wealthsimple account, you can see that I have 4 different investment accounts right now. So I have my TFSA, my FHSA, my RRSP, and also a taxable investment account. So like I said before, all of my tax advantaged accounts are maxed out right now, and I only opened up a taxable account after all of those ones were already full. I only did it so that I could actually keep investing for the rest of the year. Now, with that being said, all 3 of these accounts actually gain more contribution room on January 1st. That's how it works, and here's how much I'm gonna gain per account. So for the TFSA, I'm going to gain an additional $7,000 in contribution room. They do a preset amount every single year. It could be different, but this year it's $7,000 again, like it has been for the past few years. For the FHSA, I'm going to gain $8,000. How it works is once you open up an FHSA, you get $8,000 a year until you hit your lifetime total of $40,000, which I'm not at yet, so $8,000 for the FHSA. And then for my RRSP, I'm going to gain about or approximately $12,000 in contribution room. The RRSP actually works differently. For that one, it's 18% of your last year's income. So for me, if we take 18% of $70,000, that's about $12,600 in room. I'm just calling it $12,000 for now until we do the actual specific math and get the full amount. But that's what I have for my RRSP projected. So what that means is that's a total of $27,000 that I'm going to gain across all 3 accounts that I would need to invest in order to remax out all 3 of them next year. So ideally, our end of year bonus that we pay ourselves out in January, that'll go to remaxing out my TFSA and FHSA right away. That would be the ideal state. And then if that is the case, then that means that my $2,000 a month investment contribution will go towards my RSP for about 6 months until I max it out again, right? So from February until, July, that's where I'll be putting my money towards my RSP. Once I do max it out around that time, then I would again start putting my $2,000 monthly investment contribution towards my taxable account so that I can continue to invest for the rest of the year until December hits again. Now, in terms of what I invest in, I currently invest in an ETF called XEQT inside of my TFSA and my FHSA. And then I invest in an ETF called VXC inside of my RRSP and my taxable account. Now, both of those ETFs, both XEQT and VXC, are passive, globally diversified ETFs. So what that means is that by investing in these 2 ETFs, I'm actually invested in thousands of different companies across different countries, different industries, all of that all in one. So basically in 2026, I'm keeping most of my investing strategy the same. I'm using the same investment platform to invest. I'm investing the same amount of money, specifically on a monthly basis. I'm also investing in the same investment accounts again. The only difference is how much money I need to invest in those accounts in order to remax them out, right? So how much contribution room is being added, that's kind of the bigger change this year. So ideally at the end of 2026, this time next year, I'll have invested at least $37,000 again, and I'll have remaxed out my TFSA, FHSA, and RSP and contributed as much as possible to my taxable account too. Now, the only potential caveat to this plan that I can see as of right now is the fact that in 2026, Dennis and I are also going to start the wedding planning process, and obviously that costs money. Now, Dennis and I have decided that we're going to start the planning process in the new year, so in 2026. So at this point, I genuinely have no clue what our plan is, no clue what we're going to do. We're going to completely decide on that together in the new year. So yeah, we'll see if that ends up changing anything, if I have to start allocating some of my investing on a monthly basis towards saving instead. We'll see. What I will say I know for sure is that knowing us, we're still going to prioritize maxing out our tax advantaged accounts if we're able to do that, right? So we'll probably still stick to that part of the plan. If anything, possibly it would just be putting the money that I would have put towards my taxable account towards saving for wedding planning instead. But who knows, we might go about saving for it in a different way too. We'll have to see. But either way, there's clearly going to be some fun budget updates and things to talk about in 2026 when it comes to the wedding budget side of things. Okay, so we're almost done here, but I do want to walk you through my budget updates for 2026. Now, this is the budget template that Dennis and I made, and we just released our updated version. We wanted to make it even better for this new year, make some tweaks and some upgrades to it. So if you want to use it too, it's completely free for you to use. We'll have it linked down below and also on screen for you. But what I'm going to do right now is pull up my personal version of the template, my own actual budget template, and we're going to look at what changes I made to my budget categories and goals for this year. Okay, so now I have my laptop and I'm going to take you through my updated budget categories and goal amounts for 2026. So basically what we're looking at right here is my budget overview for the year. I just fill this out one time at the very beginning of the year so that it can be all set up. Basically, it's every single category that I expect to spend money in at some point throughout 2026, and then also my ideal max goal amount that I'd like to spend per category on a monthly basis. And I'll kind of walk you through exactly what that looks like. I also thought it would be fun this year to compare to my 2025 average. So not the budgeted amount that I gave myself for last year, but how much I actually spent on a monthly basis. So we'll see. That's going to help me, I think, make a more educated decision on what my actual goal amount should be for 2026. So I'll take you through it. Let's see what we have here. First category is rent. Our rent's been going up the last few years. For the first few years we were in our place, it didn't go up at all on an annual basis, which was amazing. Now it has been pretty much every June a little bit. So that's why our average for last year was it's $981.67 because it was $970 for a few months. Then it went up to $990. I don't know what it's going to be at the midpoint of this year, so I'm just going to stick with $990 for now. So then we have internet, same thing. Last year we ended up negotiating our price basically around January or February. It typically goes up and then we negotiate it back down. That amount changed a little bit from $36 each per month to $40 each per month. So I'm going to keep it at that same amount that it is right now, but keeping in mind that again, later in January, we might have to renegotiate and it might change slightly, but that's the goal for the year. Utilities, our actual average was a little bit higher last year than it has been in the past. Typically, we spent an average of $30 or less per month. Last year, the average actually ended up being $32 a month. So we'll see. I'm still going to keep my budgeted amount at $30. There's no need, in my opinion, to make it $32. It's still fairly accurate, but that's what's going on there. Then we have groceries. Groceries is an interesting one because I feel like every year it's gone up a little bit, which you probably already heard me talk about it a bit in some of our other videos. I don't feel upset about how much we spent. Keep in mind, this is each too, because we split our groceries, Dennis and I. So $371.90 was the average. I'm going to up my budget, I think, for 2026 to $350 a month. Again, that's just for me, $350 for me, $350 for Dennis. I think that more accurately captures how much we have been spending. So we'll see how that impacts my other categories. So next we have the restaurants category. Again, my goal for the last few years has been $150 a month, and I hadn't changed that even though I'd spent more than that. Last year I spent an average of 2 years ago, I spent an average of $190 a month. Last year it was $211. I think at this point, I don't know, I'm trying to debate right now on the spot if I should up this or not. I kind of want to continue to aim for $150 because I think the thing about me is that if I upped it to $200 a month, I would just spend $230 a month on average. It would just kind of increase the bar for me. So I'm kind of would rather leave it at $150 and just never meet my expectations for that. So I'm going to do that at least again for this year, just decided right now, and then we'll reevaluate in 2027. So $150 a month is my goal for restaurants. I'm going to keep my coffee shop goal the same as $50 a month. I was under that last year. I was under it the year before. That definitely works for me. Public transportation, this one, I typically auto-reload my transit card for $100 every 2 months. So an average of $50 a month. It was actually under that last year, which is great. Ubers is an interesting one because I don't like to budget a set amount because kind of the same with what I was saying with restaurants. I feel like if I have a set amount there, I'll spend it as opposed to just aiming to take Ubers only when it's necessary, in quotes, because it's never actually fully necessary. But that's how much I spent on average last year, and I'm going to hopefully spend less on an average basis this year coming up. Car rental is a new category to my budget this year. Last year, we started to track how much we were spending on car rentals because we were doing it more often. I spent an average, if you take it, it wasn't every month at all, but it ended up being an average of $86 a month. Still, I'm not going to put an actual budget category to this, and I'll talk about what I do with these types of categories in a second when I get to the other category, but it's good for me to know and have in there so I can track it again this year. Then massage therapist, I get 1 massage a month for my back because I have a bad scoliosis. It's exactly $146.90, so I'm keeping that as my budgeted amount. I just missed one in 2025, so that's why it's a little bit less, but otherwise, that's pretty standard. The dentist, again, a line item. I go twice a year to the dentist, so I don't need to budget a monthly basis because that doesn't really make sense, but that's how much it ended up being on an average per month last year. Then we have personal care. This is the first one that I'm actually taking a substantial change to, other than groceries, I guess, for this year. Last year, I spent an average of $203 a month. It's a little bit high, but I also feel like it's more accurate. I'm pretty frequently over my personal care, and it's not really one that I feel like I'll spend more in just because I have more budget. I just want it to be more accurately tracked and represented. So I'm upping this amount from $150 a month to $200 a month for 2026. Okay, so now we have a few categories in a row that I actually budget $0 for. And of course, that doesn't mean I expect to spend $0 in them. You can see how much I spent on a monthly average last year. But these are categories that I don't have a set amount that I'm going to spend on a consistent month over month. So these are gifts and donations, clothing, and travel. Likely at some point I'll spend in those different categories, but it's not on a consistent basis. So instead, I capture all of those in the other budget that, again, I'll talk about in a second. But on a monthly basis, I budget $0 for those, but I want the categories there so I can accurately track my spending throughout the year. Then I have subscriptions. Again, I spend $14.34 a month on Spotify. That's my one subscription. Unless they increase the price, which they might, hopefully not. That's what I'm going to budget on a monthly basis for 2026. Then we have fitness, home, and haircut, another 3 categories that I technically budget $0 for. You can see last year I spent about $28 a month on average on fitness. $97 a month was an average for both home and haircut, interestingly enough. So again, I expect to spend money on these throughout the year, but the home category, not consistently at all, maybe once or twice. Hopefully not actually next year. That's what happened last year. My haircut is either once or twice a year. And then fitness, again, it's typically for a multiple month span in a row because I do basketball intramurals. So again, no monthly amount for this, but I want to make sure I capture these categories when I do spend in them. Okay, so now last up is the other category. Again, you can see that I only spent an average of $77 a month on other last year, not $437.99. The reason that number is in there is because it's basically taking the okay, let's start from the top here. My monthly income that I would like to spend from is $2,459.91, which you can see right here. That's what this adds up to. So I just take all of the other budgeted amounts that I already have, whatever's left over, that goes into the other category to capture all the spending I do in those $0 categories. So now we can see when we add all of this up, all of my budgeted goal amounts for 2026, it adds up to the $2,459.91 a month. If I stuck to my spending goal on a monthly basis, at least from an average perspective, that would mean that I'd spend about $29,500 for the year. My goal for the year is to spend no more than $32,000. So that still gives me another $2,500 to be over, and that would be, I guess, okay with me from my yearly expenses perspective. And again, next year my goal is really to spend $32,000 or less, invest $37,000 or more. And if I'm able to do that, that means that I'll be investing 53% of my income next year, which would make me very happy. So that's it for my budget overview, my different categories I expect to spend in next year, and my budgeted goal amounts. At some point in the new year, we'll probably do some sort of updated video walking you through our new budget template for 2026 as well, and showing you the entire thing. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so that's officially it for my money overview and strategy for the new year. Please, please, please let me know what your strategy is, your updates, anything you're excited for in 2026 down in the comments below. We love reading that. And yeah, we'll see you next week with another new video. But in the meantime, have a really, really happy new year.